Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Pam Blondin, the 2020 DRA Board Chair and owner of Deco Raleigh. My family moved to Raleigh 30 years ago, excited about this city's future. We've seen incredible changes since then as Raleigh has evolved into a dynamic, creative, and innovative city. 2020 has brought enormous challenges, as we all know, for our community, especially for our independent retailers and small businesses. Downtown's largely independent shopping and dining scene is a source of pride for many of us. And though things have been tough this year, it's been wonderful to see our community coming together to support one another. Raleigh is resilient, and we are good at reimagining and reinventing. We've seen Raleigh's transformation from sleepy government town to a vibrant city, and now we need to come together again to build a solid foundation for a downtown that's even stronger than before. This afternoon, we are going to hear from residents, small business owners, developers, and employers. We will hear what makes them believe in downtown Raleigh, what they love about our city, and what they think makes us ready for a historic rebound. As we look to the future, let's remember that we started this year with a lot of momentum. Momentum supported by the kind of leadership and investment that will be even more crucial in the coming year. I'd like to take a moment to extend a special thank you to DRA's 2020 annual investors, including our event sponsors today. The support from these community leaders is needed now more than ever. I'd also like to give a special thanks to our partners with the City of Raleigh. Thank you to Mayor Baldwin, to members of the City Council, to Ruffin Hall, Jim Green, and the team of city staff for their support of DRA. I'd also like you to join me in a very special thank you to the DRA staff for their incredibly hard work this year under unusually stressful circumstances. And I'd especially like to commend Bill King for his exemplary leadership at the helm of DRA during these incredible months. Finally, I want to thank all of you for joining us virtually for this important annual event. It's my honor to serve as the 2020 DRA Chair. Thanks to all of you and to my colleagues on the board for entrusting me with this responsibility. Now, I'd like to introduce Allison Dickens. She is Senior Vice President at PNC Bank, our presenting sponsor tonight. Over the years, PNC, as we all know, has played an integral role in downtown's growth through their strong investments and partnership. Allison.
Thank you, Pam. I am proud to be part of the DRA board and represent PNC here today. PNC invests in our community in a variety of ways because we believe in downtown Raleigh. We invest in partnerships that contribute to the creativity, the culture, the innovation of this place, and believe those attributes position us to reimagine, reinvent, and return stronger than before. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of recognizing our board members, officers, and immediate past chair. DRA's board of directors represents a diverse group of downtown stakeholders. They bring a wide range of knowledge, expertise, creativity, and a passion for downtown Raleigh to DRA. We have sought to build a board reflective of this diverse community in place. Our board is comprised of residents, small business owners, major employers, retailers, restaurant owners, and members of our hospitality community. I'm privileged to be a part of this group, proud of what has been accomplished, and excited for what lay ahead. I'd also like specifically to recognize our 2020 officers and executive committee members. Lastly, we'd like to thank our immediate past chair, Neil Gray. Neil took over as chair of the Downtown Raleigh Alliance Board of Directors in 2019. He led the board and the organization through implementation of our strategic plan. Thank you, Neil, for all of your hard work. And now I'd like to introduce the President and CEO of Downtown Raleigh Alliance, Bill King.
All right, thank you so much, Allison and Pam, for your remarks. I appreciate it. I want to thank PNC, our presenting sponsor, and welcome everyone to our State of Downtown event. So before I get started, I'd like to congratulate our 2020 IMPRINT Award winners. And so these are the IMPRINT Awards recognize projects in downtown Raleigh that required significant investment and had a major impact on our downtown skyline, streetscape, vibrancy, and community. From major infrastructure projects like Blunt Street Corridor that added bike lanes to the Capitol Boulevard interchange, that's helped create a stronger grid network in downtown, to residential projects like the Saint and Peace Raleigh, which became our largest residential building in downtown Raleigh, to new hotels with the Longleaf and Origin Raleigh, adding new experiences for our visitors, to great adaptive reuse and renovation projects at the Rainbow Upholstery Building and Hargate West, which have added new life to old buildings. And then the new addition to our skyline, the 22-story mixed-use F&B Tower. Thank you to the many people who helped make these projects possible, and congratulations. As I walk through this data, I want to note before I begin that certainly some of these stats and trends date back to before the pandemic began. Partially, that's because some of this data is measured annually, and as we do every year with this report, using 2019 as the most recent baseline. And that's also because while this year has been something else, we think this will eventually pass, and downtown will be fully back on its feet sooner rather than later. So know that we are aware not everything is back to normal, but we also believe you'll see in this data and listen to these stories that downtown will bounce back soon. I also want to note that we've launched a new website for this data, where not only you can download the report, but also where it's easier to interact with data, visualize trends in downtown for yourself and others, and allows for easy navigation of the many charts and maps. And an email will go out with that link and be posted to our social media after this event. This has been a tough year for everyone. It's a year that's tested our mettle, sometimes punched us in the mouth, told us to stay home, and generally redefined so much about how we live. But it's a year that has also asked us and reminded us, and maybe even redefined for us, who we are. So who are we? What is downtown Raleigh? That isn't such an easy question to answer. Even if I tell you the boring answer of what downtown is, like this map, well, it's complicated. Are we the red line, the black line, the red dotted line, the circle, the districts? You can define downtown Raleigh in many different ways. Perhaps we should look at the basics. Are we just defined by all of our numbers and metrics? We're a downtown of nearly 12,000 residents now, with over 20,000 living within a mile. We're nearly 50,000 employees, and yes, those employees are coming back. In 2019, we had over 3.5 million visitors. We still have over 150 restaurants and over 100 retailers. Should we define ourselves as one of the fastest growing downtowns? A place with a $2.6 billion pipeline of completed, under construction and planned development that started in 2015 and is still moving forward. Just in the past 5 years, we've seen a staggering $1.4 billion in completed development. We could define ourselves as a neighborhood, a place where our growth in residents, 52% increase since 2015 and more than doubling this decade, outpaces the rapid growth of this city and state, where we expect that growth to keep going and going with over 14,000 residents in the downtown area in less than 5 years. Glenwood South District in downtown is now one of the densest parts of the city and a thriving mixed-use neighborhood. Should we define ourselves by demand? As this data provided to us thanks to Integra Realty Resources shows, our rent increases each year in our downtown residential buildings, indicating that demand for living downtown continues to rise, which also heightens the call and need for more housing in downtown and more options, including affordable units, to accommodate our many service workers, artists, nonprofit workers, government, and others who work hard and participate in this downtown as well. Keep in mind that rent has continued to rise in a place where 3,123 residential units have been built in the past 5 years, with more on the way. Clearly, we have demand for more housing of all types in downtown. And that demand is clear in our increasing occupancy, where 97% of downtown residential units in stabilized buildings are occupied, our highest measurement ever of occupancy in downtown. People are staying here and continuing to be a part of this community. Do we define ourselves by our density? Being the densest part of the city and region has added tremendous energy and vibrancy to our downtown and helps our entire city create a less car-dependent future. As you can see, There's a lot more to come with residential units on the way. But you can also see we've added over 1 million square feet of office space in the past 5 years too. So our density is not just defined by residents, but also by employees. So do we define ourselves by our workers who make up the densest employment node in the region, a place where employees and companies look to network and collaborate and thrive off of collective energy. It's come together with over 1 million square feet delivered in the last 5 years. And make no mistake, our major employers and office tenants are committed to returning to downtown as conditions improve in the pandemic, and will bring back their energy and vitality to downtown as soon as it's safe to do so. Demand to work downtown was and remains very strong, ending with almost 95% occupancy at the end of 2019. And thank you to CBRE Raleigh for their great data on office in this report and always providing us this. Do we define ourselves as a place that has caught attention from investors from all over the country, such as the under construction 301 Hillsborough Street at Raleigh Crossing from the Fallon Company, or the upcoming 121 Fayetteville Street from Preferred Office, or the upcoming Nexus development, a 4-tower development on the former News and Observer site? We have so many more towers on the way too: 400H, The Edge, Salisbury Square, and Smoky Hollow Phase 2, which is nearly complete. There will be more and more workers in downtown over the coming years. Do we define ourselves by what it means when we have more office towers? Last year, Heritage Properties opened One Glenwood, a building nearly fully leased by opening day, and that was so successful, they've already made significant progress on completing the companion building, Tower 2 at Block 83. But even simply discussing these buildings doesn't capture their impact. Our pedestrian counters located at that intersection measured a 67% increase in foot traffic from before One Glenwood till after it was opened. What that means is our density has a real effect on the ground floor, and our west side of downtown is being redefined by projects and investments like that of Heritage, and up the street by the Smoky Hollow development of Kane Realty and many others. And note that part of what drives and will continue to drive people to downtown Raleigh is our cost relative to peer downtowns and cities. You get talent here that stacks up to any region in the country, but for a lower cost than many of our peer markets. And speaking of talent, do we define ourselves as the most educated? A place where educational attainment keeps rising every year and is well above state and national averages. A downtown that is home to William Peace University, where students are immersed in downtown experiences as part of their education. Home to Shaw University, which has prioritized innovation and entrepreneurship for training a new generation. Home to St. Augustine's University, which has recently welcomed a new president to keep training leaders for our community as they've done for decades. And we are one of the only regions in the United States with 3 Tier 1 research universities driving innovation and development across the region. Do we define ourselves by the value this growth has created? A place where downtown office towers add more per acre to tax revenue than any other development type in the city. A place of tremendous value to Raleigh. And how do we move all these smart people around? Perhaps we should define ourselves by our connectivity. We are the most connected part of Raleigh and the entire Triangle region. We are one of the regions in the Southeast moving forward with major transit investment, with the launch of 4 bus rapid transit lines over the next few years, including the Newbern Avenue BRT, which is continuing over the next couple of years. We could define ourselves as the most connected retail node. We are with our new R-Line route that connects grocery stores and residential nodes. We could define ourselves as one of the most walkable downtowns in the region and even country, with a high walk score of 97 in the downtown core, which means access to amenities, transit, necessities by foot are tremendous. We could certainly say we're one of the greenest downtowns in the country, a place surrounded by parks and major green space investments, something this entire community is committed to through the renovation of Chavis Park and the creation of Dix Park and the renovation of Moore Square. But perhaps we need to define ourselves a little more specifically. Perhaps we should define ourselves as the most independent part of the city, a place where 93% of our stores are locally owned and where retail has grown rapidly over the past 5 years. Stores like Read With Me, House of Swank, Father and Son, Revolver Boutique, Poorhouse Record Shop, Raleigh Provisions, the Zen Succulent, and many others provide a distinctly locally sourced and owned flavor that cannot be easily found in other downtowns. And they help provide the character that makes Raleigh what it is, and the place so unique, and drive so much passion for our community, and is part of why we need to continue to support this downtown. We may also define ourselves by our food, a place where food and beverage sales increased year over year the previous decade, topping out at $262 million in sales last year. A trend that points to a healthy rebound when COVID eventually leaves us. A place where our chefs are consistently recognized among the best in the country. Quality has been our calling card and will be the foundation of our rebound as we emerge from this pandemic over time. Perhaps we define ourselves as the most creative, where more than 20 art galleries and organizations are based downtown, and numerous performing arts organizations such as North Carolina Symphony and Theater and Opera are based here. We are a place covered in murals and powerful expressions of art. We can even define ourselves by how much people love to visit us. With over 3.5 million visitors in 2019 and an upward trend over the previous decade, we know there are many people who cannot wait to visit again. This is a place with hotels such as a Marriott City Center, Sheraton, Residence Inn, Hampton Inn and Suites, and new hotels like the Longleaf and Origin that were performing at over 75% occupancy prior to the pandemic and are poised to return to those rates in the near future thanks to all of our great venues and museums. We believe this trend in visitation will pick back up as it's safe to do so. But 2020 has also forced us to come up with a new vocabulary for who we are. Now we talk about masks and social distancing, keeping 6 feet apart. We talk about innovations like curbside pickup zones, of which there are over 85 in the downtown Raleigh area, quickly deployed to help our businesses survive during the pandemic. We've become acquainted with pedlets and parklets as ways to help our businesses survive in the midst of this pandemic and find new ways to keep people safe while enjoying their services. And now we have to define ourselves by how we pivot. With new takeout windows and other ways to provide services while keeping people safe, we've had to learn how to serve patrons and keep our employees and customers safe at the same time. So I want to take a moment to show you all a brief video of some of the ways our businesses and institutions have pivoted in this incredible and challenging time.
At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we needed to close our space in order to keep our community safe. So we banded together with 4 other cultural entities that call downtown Raleigh home in order to create a safety net for creative people all across the state. To date, the North Carolina Arts Relief Fund has sent over $200,000 to more than 700 artists all across the state and also locally right here in downtown Raleigh.
We had to pivot because we could not service any clients in the salon. And so what I decided to do was already making crystal oil, which is our cuticle oil. I decided to make some of the scrubs that we use here in the salon to sell them to supplement for some of the income that we lost, just so we can keep the doors open.
When we reopened, we decided to keep Mondays as the days where we would be close to the public, but we would let people book free private shopping appointments in our shop. So they'd only be in here with one other person tops. We ramped up our online website. Lots of enhancements. Prior to COVID, we were 5% online sales. Now we're over 60% online sales, which is crazy. We're shipping all over Raleigh each and every day. And we do curbside pickup. We'd always had that. No one really took us up on it. Curbside is the jam.
It's uncharted territory for both the city and for the businesses.
Our downtown community has been the biggest supporter of our work for the past 40 years, and especially in the past few months.
One thing we used to do in our shop pre-COVID was to host quarterly customer roundtables, where we'd bring in 15 to 20 of our customers and just say, hey, what are we doing really well and what can we improve? So got on the Zoom. I was like, we can do these virtually. So I spent probably the first 3 weeks of COVID on Zoom almost every night for 3 weeks, doing 9 p.m., 8 p.m. meetings with groups of customers who, hundreds of them, raised their hand on social media to join one of our virtual customer roundtables. And they gave incredible ideas. It was through those roundtables that I heard customers say, I won't really be buying like dresses or statement earrings anymore for the foreseeable future, but I need gifts to send to people. I want little things to send to frontline workers. And so I was like, I can find gifts. I can do that. We can expand our gift collection.
This year has called for quite a few pivots in our business due to coronavirus. Our dining room has been closed since March, but luckily we've been able to upfit the storefront to have this lovely takeout window, and we've been lucky to have people supporting us and still getting a lot of to-go orders. We've also pivoted to doing delivery. These spots here are normally for our delivery van, and we also allow people to curbside pick up.
I just wanted to give a big thank you to the Downtown Raleigh Alliance. It's been a year that none of us could have predicted and none of us could have prepared for. And we've felt very supported as a local business by the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, Bill and his whole team.
We're very optimistic about the future because we think this is a time for creative individuals to take the lead. We're gonna need creative solutions for the future. We can't return to the old normal. We have to build a new normal together.
I am very optimistic about downtown Raleigh and it being revitalized after COVID-19. I think it's very resilient. We have a lot of young people who want to get out and do things.
That's why I can stand here so optimistic and hopeful today. It's because I know I'm not alone. And together, we're going to get through this. And the way we do that is to continue doing what we've always done as the Downtown Raleigh community, and that is to ask for help and to give it each and every single day.
I'm also really optimistic for the future of Raleigh despite the challenges that we've incurred. We don't have big expectations about who's going to look after us because we know that we're all in this for the very first time ever and no one's really prepared and we're all just navigating as we go. But just to know that we're not in this alone is enough for us. And so we really do feel supported by the city, by the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, by the mayor, and we're grateful for that.
Well, thank you so much to our great business owners and institutions for showing us some examples of how to pivot during this time. We're grateful for their time and thankful for the innovative community that we have here. So we've said a lot, we've learned a lot of new vocabulary, but we've also had to say some other words. As a community and a nation, we've needed to explicitly acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. We've needed to acknowledge that there's far more work to be done as a community and a nation to be equitable and truly a place for all. And that goes for downtown as much as anywhere else. We've also had moments this year where we had no words at all, but where we had to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and keep moving forward. So we've got to remember all we have had and still have going for us. As you've seen, this downtown has so much energy, has come so far in such a short time. It was not so long ago, downtown was quiet and mostly empty. But through the work of this entire community, we became the rapidly growing, dense, valuable, educated, connected, innovative, walkable, creative, visited place we are today. A place where so much of this community sees itself when it sees Raleigh. We have to remember how hard we worked and how much this community loves and supports this downtown. We have to know we didn't get here by always doing the same thing. Whether it was reimagining Fayetteville Street or building one of the nation's best multimodal centers, we need to keep new thinking to keep downtown moving during this tough time. Here at DRA, we're focused on a number of strategic major areas to help downtown through this pandemic, as you can see. Public health, equity, diversity, safety, pop-up activation, storefront support, marketing, and public art. We've hired more ambassadors to continue to provide peace of mind on our streets in a downtown where in a survey this summer, 80% of stakeholders say they still feel safe. We've also hired our first ever social services outreach ambassador, a social worker to help move the needle and help those in need on our streets find services to support their path forward, such as shelters, food, training, and other needs. We want to make sure that we use this moment to be honest and improve our opportunities for equity and diversity through providing more space for entrepreneurs and businesses of color, to make sure downtown truly reflects Raleigh through continued partnerships like the one we have with Wake Tech in this pop-up space, and other ones, to make sure that downtown is reflective of all. We're supporting our storefronts through our Storefront Revitalization Grant, which we launched this week, which is funding pivots such as expanded outdoor dining furniture and other creative means for adjusting to our new realities in this pandemic. We also have a major marketing effort underway and new promotions coming over the next few weeks that will prioritize supporting downtown safely. We're launching a program to activate our storefronts this holiday season with art and pop-ups to help provide opportunities for artists and entrepreneurs to find a home in downtown. We've included public health in everything we do, as we've taken steps on educating our businesses and in precautions for all of our activations, including our farmers market, which is held every week at Moore Square, but includes use of masks, sanitation stations, and all proper regulations. We have several public art projects in the works as well that'll help change the face of downtown. We've already built self-guided tours for people to come experience downtown's creativity at their own pace and comfort. And of course, we will be decorating downtown for the holidays and fall with lights and installations to help reimagine downtown as a canvas for new creativity and a place of light in what has often been a dark time this year. That work and the hard work of our many businesses is already paying off. With pedestrian traffic up over 30% in August over July, the past 2 weekends have been the highest sales in downtown since March. Boards have been coming down rapidly over the past couple of weeks as we return while mindful of the ongoing need for public health, safety, and precautions. This downtown is open. As we move forward, we do so with the knowledge that we haven't lost all that makes us great. We didn't lose all the hard work, all the investment, all the people, all the creativity. We still have our residential buildings full, employers committed to return, visitors ready to come explore, and businesses already coming back to life. As we move forward, we must remember the lessons of this year, whether it's how the pandemic will change everyday life or how these calls for justice ask us to examine our own biases. And let's also remember that morning after the vandalism, when hundreds of people showed up, just looking to help their downtown. We had so many people wanting to help, we had to turn people away. We need that same energy moving forward. That same love needs to be harnessed to bring this downtown back. So we have all those other definitions of who we are. We are dense, we are smart, we are valuable, we are creative. But we need to keep adding to our vocabulary. We are adapting. We are resilient. We are safe. We are open. And we are strong. We are downtown Raleigh, and we are not going anywhere. But we are coming back stronger than ever. Thank you so much for your support.
Well, I'm optimistic. I think some people feel a little kind of concerned right now with what is going on in the market, but I feel as though we've set a strong foundation. So if we could just stay true to where we are in Raleigh and stay true to our mission, I think there's nothing that we can't accomplish in downtown.
Over the last 10 years plus, I have helped support Marbles and the kids and families in our community, and downtown is just such a great place for families. I'm excited to bring my daughter to make new friends and have new experiences.
The vibrancy of downtown is great, and the people that come and visit us, whether it's people that have been in downtown Raleigh for a long time or people that are just getting off the train and visiting the city for the first time, the people is what's important about downtown, and that's why I enjoy so much being part of it.
We like that we can walk out our front door, to walk, to bike, great dining opportunities. We just love being downtown.
For Heather and I, when we moved from California a few years ago, it was really important for us to find an LGBT inclusive community. And we think we found that here downtown. We have really made this place home, and that's felt great.
You know, downtown communities are always at their best, the heart of any city. We don't tend to see each other as competitors. We see each other as important parts of the community. And if there's anything that I think will help us get through this situation and see us on the other side is the fact that our community does tend to stick together.
I'm optimistic because the Morning Times has been a community hub for 14 years. And since this pandemic has hit, we've pretty much continued to operate at a very good capacity, which gives me a lot of hope for other businesses down here. We have so much groundwork already laid here. I just have no doubt that downtown's gonna be awesome.
There's such a collaborative spirit in this city, and it really seems like it's not an us versus them sort of an environment, but it's really everyone working together to accomplish the goal of making this place even better. I know that no matter what we're up against, we can pull together and make some really magical things happen.
When you pass someone on the street and you lock eyes, both of you are saying the same thing. This place is great, and it's coming back, and we're in it together.
Every year, I'm very impressed with the foresight. I'm very impressed with the level of attention to detail that all the stakeholders come together in the community to bring to be able to ensure the success of downtown Raleigh. The vision is something that I'm willing to hold to and I believe in.
Look around. Things are happening down here. People are going out to eat. Cranes are going up. Concrete's being poured. You've got tremendous leadership in the public-private space, redoing our parks and our squares to create places for people. So that's what I see. I see investment both by the public sector and the private sector. And I see that investment generating a return by people coming here.
As I think about the future of downtown Raleigh, fortunate for where our office is located, and I'm looking over the city, and that you see the cranes and the ever-changing buildings. And so that skyline and the view continues to change and adjust as we grow as a region. And that investment and belief in the long-term viability of downtown Raleigh continues. And so we get to watch downtown Raleigh change and be in the center of it. And it's really something very valuable to us at PNC.
This is one of the greatest areas in the United States for growth. We have 25,000 kids graduate from college every year in this area. They want to stay, quality of life. They're either living here in Raleigh-Durham or they're living in Charlotte. So we've got to take advantage of our advantage, and that is to build on that growth. And I think from a downtown's perspective, we have eclectic restaurants, we've got uniqueness. We just have a lot to be proud of, and wouldn't be anywhere else.
I like working in downtown Raleigh. I can come over here to the North Carolina History Museum and check out the exhibits on my lunch break. I can walk over to Sweet Tea and Cornbread and get a bite to eat, or I can go to Carol's Kitchen, which is a great place to get a meal. One of the things that I'm looking forward to the most is our new building. We're going to employ another 200 plus people. It should be open in 2022. So are things looking up in Raleigh? I think they are, and I'm looking forward to the next 5 years.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Moore, President of First National Bank for the Raleigh-Durham region. F&B is honored to be part of this program and to be recognizing leadership in our community. We're excited to be in our new home in the F&B Tower, which is our regional headquarters located right here in the heart of downtown Raleigh. We believe strongly in investing in our communities to create better places to live and work. The new building serves as an extension of our company's commitment to Raleigh, and the surrounding region provides us with the ability to better connect with customers, businesses, and residents. while increasing employee collaboration and innovation. Today, we would like to present the Distinguished Leadership Award to an extraordinary individual whose involvement and contributions to making our community a success have been realized over many years. We'd like to recognize Caroline Welch for her service and commitment to downtown Raleigh. Caroline retired in March from her role as President and General Manager of WTVD, also known as ABC 11. She came to ABC 11 in 2012 from Philadelphia. Caroline has been a strong supporter and advocate for downtown Raleigh. She oversaw ABC 11's expansion of its downtown Raleigh studio, including its most recent modernization. In addition, she worked to move ABC 11's morning news broadcast to Fayetteville Street studio. Caroline has served her community in a number of ways, one of which as a Downtown Raleigh Alliance board member from 2012 into 2018, and through her support at ABC 11 of community events like the annual Christmas tree lighting and Downtown Raleigh Restaurant Week. Thank you, Caroline, for your leadership and dedication to our community. Now I'd like to introduce Michael Iovino of August Construction Solutions, who will present our next award. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Iovino with August Construction Solutions. We are excited to be presenting the Downtown Advocate Award. At ACS, we believe in and value the idea of service. ACS is named after my great-grandfather as a tribute to 3 generations of my family who have served the building industry as tradespeople, contractors, engineers, and architects. This award honors a government employee whose advocacy and service has positively impacted downtown. We are honored to present this award to Kelly McChesney, Public Art Director for the City of Raleigh. Kelly joined the city after founding Flanders Gallery and serving as Director of Lump Gallery. In her role with the City of Raleigh, Kelly has created and executed numerous creative public art projects from small to grand. Her impact throughout downtown is evident with the impressive Sonarch art installation located in front of the Duke Energy Center for Performing Arts. Other projects she has been instrumental in include Raleigh Art Beats with 41 small-scale art installations around downtown, the glass artwork at John Chavis Memorial Park, Sunshade by artist David Wilson, Breath of Gods by Thomas Sayer at Union Station, plus many more. Kelly is currently working on $1 million project for the future Civic Campus East, along with dozens of additional projects launching in 2021. With a creative, enthusiastic spirit, the City of Raleigh and downtown are lucky to have Kelly leading the public art movement. Kelly is bringing joy and creativity to our city. Thank you, Kelly, for your dedication, showcasing artistic talents and making our community interesting, unique, and beautiful. Now I would like to introduce our panel moderator, Sharon Moe, Senior Vice President of North State Bank, for the second half of our program with our panelists who will share their views on the impact of COVID-19 and their future outlook.
Well, I am so honored to be here today as moderator for our distinguished lineup of panelists. I'd first like to introduce our panelists. We have Leon Cox, the General Manager at Sheridan Raleigh, Dr. Paulette Dillard, President at Shaw University, Boone Dupree, CEO of Preferred Office Properties, Jenna Geigerman, Director of Real Estate and Strategy at Citrix, Skip Hill, Vice President of Highwoods Properties, Warner Cuppen, Senior Director of Development at Kane Realty, and Jess Porta, Executive Director of Raleigh Founded, which was formerly known as HQ Raleigh. Thank you all for being part of today's conversation. Each of our panelists will share their views on the impact of COVID-19 and their future outlook. I'd like to start with Leon Cox. Leon, I would hazard to say that the last 6 months have probably been among the most challenging of your time at Sheridan Raleigh. Can you tell us how the downtown hotel market was prior to COVID-19? And how do you see downtown's hospitality market bouncing back once the COVID-19 crisis has passed?
Well, thank you, Sharon, for the question. Definitely the most challenging in my career, not only with my time in Raleigh, most of the challenges loom around the layoffs of people that we have employed and people that have helped us to achieve the goals that we've achieved over the last 8 years that I've been in the market. Those were the most challenging. Thankfully, there was some governmental assistance to help some of these people recover. But that was the most challenging, having to lay off and furlough so many of our staff. What do we look like prior to COVID? Raleigh is a very diverse market in the fact that we've got banking, we've got a lot of different things that vary us in this market, that feed us in this market. And those things, education, tech, help us to recover. So the year started off great. This was one of the markets throughout the country that was looking at positive RevPAR gains, revenue per available room. That was driven through ADR growth, kind of a flattening of occupancies, but ADR was trending up, and all of that was going very, very well prior to March. And then in March, everything kind of trended backwards and went the other way. But the market is resilient. We're looking, as we look forward, we're looking at numbers slightly down from 2019. Those numbers were very strong across the board. Occupancies were very strong in 2019, as was mentioned prior to. The downtown market was performing over 75%. ADR was strong. We're looking to be slightly down from that. The beginning will be the return of office space being occupied, which will resume corporate travel. Those are the things that will stimulate our return in the downtown market. And we're thankful that in the first quarter, we'll start to see some of those things come into fruition. And by second quarter of next year, us returning to looking more like we were in 2019. We're optimistic. And most of all, we're very excited about welcoming those staff members that we had to furlough and lay off back into the workforce and helping them to achieve some of the goals that they were wanting to achieve as well.
Thanks, Leon. I'd like to turn to Dr. Dillard now. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Dillard. As you are currently the chair of the Cooperating Raleigh Colleges Consortium, what impact do you see COVID-19 having on higher education in Raleigh in the near term? And what are some of the changes that you all have made at Shaw University to deal with COVID-19?
Sharon, thank you for allowing me to participate on today's panel and to represent the Cooperating Raleigh Colleges Consortium. For those of you not familiar with the consortium, we've been in existence for over 50 years and made up of 6 campuses with over 120,000 students who live, learn, and play in Raleigh, North Carolina. And as you can imagine, that although we are uniquely different on each of our campuses, the impact of COVID-19 has been similar for each of us. And those impacts including the campus wear, pivoting to personal protective equipment. So masks and hand sanitizers and sanitizer stations are all things that comprise each of our campuses now. Events that are hallmarks of the college experience have had to be virtual versus being able to be enjoyed in athletic venues and in downtown Raleigh as part of festivals. All of those things don't exist in the way we're used to having them happen. But we've got resilient faculty, staff, and students who have made the best, of an otherwise difficult situation. And by doing so, we have modified academic content platforms to be more interactive and engaging, even though you would prefer to be in a face-to-face environment. We've had to modify physical spaces so that we could meet safe distancing guidelines. We have had to do things like insist that behaviors that are common to college campuses are no longer allowed. And we've been able to overcome most of those things. The financial impacts have been significant, but thanks to the North Carolina General Assembly and the Federal CARES Act, we have had some support in offsetting some of the cost. Recruitment for colleges is an in-person event. So we've all had to deal with enrollment challenges because we have not been able to recruit students in a face-to-face environment. But Raleigh, as you've heard from other entities, is so resilient and so much a part of each of our campuses that we have been able to come together with various stakeholders and make the best of an otherwise difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, cooperation and creativity seems to be the key to getting through everything. But this summer has also seen tremendous calls for social change and action with regards to racial justice. Can you talk about what role Shaw University is playing in leading this change in downtown and in Raleigh as a whole?
Excellent question, and I'm happy to report that Shaw University has created the Center for Racial and Social Justice. And the idea of creating the center was to bring together the various stakeholders, students, businesses, community, together to have lectures and town halls to talk about what can we do together to make our city more equitable for all. You may not be familiar that in April 1960, Shaw University was the birthplace of what is known as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And it was a student-led organization that went about seeking change in how people of color were treated in this country. And it was very impactful in the civil rights movement. So we created a way for our students to have a voice in what is happening in the community, but be able to exercise that voice in a peaceful and impactful manner. One of the events that we were most excited about as part of the recent protest was an event called #MoreThanAStudent, which was a silent virtual protest conducted on this campus that said, we're not happy with racial violence. However, we're not okay with rioting, looting, and destroying our community. And so we're leading the way in meaningful dialogue on how students can make a difference in their community and do it in a peaceful and effective manner.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I'd like to turn now to Boone Dupree. Just last week, new architectural renderings were revealed for the new 30-story high-rise 121 Fayetteville Street. Boone, can you share to us why you've chosen to invest so heavily in downtown Raleigh? And where do you see our market relative to others in the Southeast? And thirdly, what still excites you about downtown Raleigh and its future?
Yeah, happy to. Well, first of all, it's great to be able to do business in a state that I actually really love and have a lot of connection to. Went to school in Winston-Salem, family ties to Eastern North Carolina and Little Washington. But the reason we make business decisions is because of the opportunity we see. And so, you know, today we have about $1 billion between property investments and development that we have planned between Charlotte and Raleigh. And you know, the way we kind of look at our opportunity there is, you know, not to get into the weeds, but we can invest in a really high quality office property in Raleigh for $400 or $500 a foot. We can acquire or develop it. And the other markets that we're active in and we're invested in like Nashville and Dallas, Austin, the comparable kind of cost is $600 to $1,000 a foot. So there's a significant relative value. And you could look at that as, well, discount implies inferior. But here, in our view, it's underappreciated, undervalued, because as you compare these markets to each other, Raleigh competes toe-to-toe on these corporate relocations because it already has tech presence, it already has RTP, it already has state government and higher ed. It's one of like 5 metro areas in the United States that has 3 tier 1 research universities. So it's not a discount, it's just underappreciated. And I think, we came into the market in 2018 feeling like imminently we were going to see a wave of Fortune 500s that identify that and make commitments here. And I think it's just a matter of time before that happens. And so we have a long-term view, 10, 20-year investment horizon. And we have a lot of confidence that, as you look out past COVID, 2020 has been a strange year. But as you look out beyond that, I think, we're sort of glass half full that this is going to have been a catalyst for these migration trends that are already happening. If you're a millennial in Manhattan and you're trying to figure out how to make the leap to relocate your family and come to a city like Raleigh, well, if you've been displaced for 6 months working from home, separated from your employer, it's sort of an easier move to make. So yeah, we continue to be really, really bullish and optimistic about Raleigh.
Well, that's so great to hear. And from hearing about your new space, I'd love to talk to Jenna Geigerman with Citrix, who has been in downtown for quite a few years. Jenna, I've been in Citrix's space, and you have such a cool open layout. What changes are being made or planned to be made to update Citrix's office space for social distancing? And what are your plans for returning to the office?
Thanks, Sharon. The biggest change is that the office is closed to all but essential personnel. This is not a Zoom background. This is actually my office, and there's nobody there. If there was a Zoom background, there'd be a lot of activity and a lot of people, because that is one of the cool things about working at Citrix. Globally, we have entry protocols that include using our workspace app to answer 4 health questions. We all take our temperature before coming into the office, and we provide masks and gloves and hand sanitizer for the essential employees that are on site, which is mostly at this point security, janitorial, and facilities. Our offices, we've marked the workstations as either off limits, like if they're too close to a path of travel, or on A/B shifts, in order to maintain 6 feet distance between active workstations. There's also signage throughout the site to note which spaces are available, paths of travel to minimize people passing too close. Ironically, that's something we used to encourage, like people bumping into each other, having casual conversations, but that's something that we actually have to manage now, which is a very different place to be. Given the continued state of the pandemic in the Americas, holistically in North Carolina as well, most of our sites will not return to the office any earlier than the end of the year. And once we get the green light from our Global Security Risk Services organization, we'll ramp up to about 50% capacity, which will be, a rotational basis of employees until there's a widespread vaccine.
Well, Citrix has always been such a big investor in downtown, and even our bike share has your name on it. Why has downtown Raleigh been so important to Citrix and its employees and its culture?
Well, it's a big part of the Citrix identity, being part of a vibrant, multicultural, intergenerational environment. And the location is a key part of our recruitment and our retention strategy. People want to work for Citrix because we're a great company, but also because we have a great location and office experience, especially when there are people in the building. While our teams are able to work 100% remotely, giving the great tools that Citrix offers, there's just no substitute for in-person interaction. And having our offices repopulated is a key part of maintaining our culture, fostering collaboration, and stimulating innovation. And then supporting local businesses and nonprofits is important as well for our culture and our site psyche. So I, for one, speak for all of the employees at Citrix Raleigh when we are really excited when we're able to return to the office.
And we'll be excited to have you guys back downtown.
Yes.
So I'd like to turn to Skip Hill now. Skip, how have your properties in downtown handled the past 6 months? Oh, off of mute.
Okay, it's a good question. So for reference purposes, we own 3 buildings downtown, 3 towers at PNC, One City Plaza, and Charter Square. And then we own the 4 kiosks on the plaza. And so that gives you kind of a flavor of what we have. We have about 60 customers. We have about 15% of them have asked for some form of rent relief over the past 6 months, but they have fared pretty well. And we've been very encouraged with that. We do have 10 restaurants that we have provided some form of relief because of the challenges they're facing, but they're hanging in there too. And so that's been something we've been focused on. We're focusing on trying to help our customers as best we can, as well as continuing to run and operate the buildings. Physically, over the past 6 months, of course, in late May, early June, we had the 2 nights of unexpected bedlam and riots that none of us expected to be to the extent it was. We lost about 180 panes of glass. It cost us a couple $100,000 to replace those. We had some insurance, but except for that, that's the only time that has happened. So, you know, one of the things I tell people is that except for 2 nights, we have had some protests, peaceful protests, which everybody has the right to do, but that's the only 2 nights that have been significantly challenging. And kudos go out to our leadership and to the police department for how they've handled, and they're better prepared and they're planning for protests. And so that's what's been going on the last 6 months. The one thing I will say is in a few weeks ago, there was some concern about potential additional riots. And we chose at that time not to board up our windows. We talked to Bill, we talked to our customers, and we said, guys, in order to initiate positive change, it can't be a we versus they. We need to have trust in our people, in our police department, in our leadership, in the people of Raleigh. And so we didn't board up. We were fortunate, nothing happened. And so we're gonna continue that playbook going forward. And I hope that everyone else will do the same thing, because it is challenging to see boarded up windows, even though I understand that owners want to protect their properties.
Yeah, thank you, Skip. Thank you for that. What do you see as the future of office development and office space in downtown Raleigh? And what do you see as some trends coming down the pipe?
Well, you know, it's interesting talking about trends. I mean, I'm sitting right here on One City Plaza right now, and it's nice to see some of the improvements and changes that the plazas has going on right now. It's obviously it's sparse in terms of population, and a lot of the retailers and the hoteliers and the restaurants are feeling that. But, you know, quietly, we are seeing an increase of people coming downtown, even though you may not see it. And the reason we know that is we own about 3 parking decks, and we see each of the parking decks filling up quietly more and more. And so we're looking at that trend. I tell you, probably not unlike Boone and several folks in the area, we are extremely bullish on downtown Raleigh from long term. We're gonna go over a temporary speed bump, and I don't know how long that'll be. I'm hoping it's shorter. We're gonna go through an election. We're gonna find vaccines and that kind of thing, but it will pass. And downtown Raleigh will thrive again. So we're excited about that. You know, we heard Jenna talk about some of the trends that are going on in different buildings. We're going to see some buildings that may have differences in how we operate the building from an HVAC standpoint later on. And I think we've all learned hygienically how to be a little bit more careful, and that will transcend this pandemic. And so I think that'll be helpful. But I will tell you what, we're pretty bullish, as well as we've seen a pretty decent amount of inquiries coming in from other cities and other states, bigger cities, different states, looking at our area. And our area is at one of the top lists. And you probably have heard that from Michael Haley and Mark Lawson and different economic developers around the area, but it is true. And so I tell you what, for the next 10 to 20 years in Raleigh, we're going to get past the speed bump in the next year or two. I couldn't be more excited about being in Raleigh. I hope I don't sound selfish as a developer, but I think that we're going to see a lot of employment growth.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for sharing information about the office market. I'd like to pivot now to the residential market and talk with Warner Cuppen. Warner Kane has invested heavily in downtown Raleigh's residential community with nearly 700 units already built and more on the way. How are your residential properties performing in downtown, and what do you have up next in the pipeline?
Thanks, Sharon. It's great to be with everyone virtually. And as you mentioned, we have invested heavily in downtown Raleigh, and we'll continue to do so. Regarding the 700 units, we opened the Dillon in the Warehouse District in March 2018. The Dillon has 271 units and sits above about 25,000 square feet of retail, including Weaver Street Market. It's doing well under the circumstances. It's about 95% occupied and getting strong rents, under the circumstances. Peace opened a few months ago and is our first project in the revitalized Smoky Hollow neighborhood, which acts as the northern gateway to downtown. Peace has 417 units and is also on top of a grocery store, Publix, which opened a couple weeks ago. Peace is still in lease up, and so its occupancy is around 30%. And like Dillon is getting healthy rents, all things considered right now. All that being said, the market has softened a bit in the short term due to the pandemic. Specifically, we're seeing a slowdown in rent growth. And we're also seeing properties be more flexible on the amount of concessions they'll offer to sign a lease. So for example, typically during a lease up, you may offer a prospect 1 month free rent, but we're seeing some properties offer 1.5 months free, even 2 months free to help speed up leasing velocity. The last part of your question was about our pipeline. We'll open the Line Apartments, also in Smoky Hollow, in a couple of months. And then beyond that, we're working on phase 3 of Smoky Hollow, the Clancy and Phase headquarters redevelopment on West Cabarrus Street, our Downtown South project at the intersection of 40 and South Saunders, and some other downtown projects we're not quite ready to announce. But again, we're really confident in Raleigh and downtown's future. We're excited to be here and continue to do more projects.
That's great, and we're so excited that Kane has such a healthy pipeline. What do you see as future trends and growth for downtown residential development as a whole, like not just for Kane? Do you see trends for other developers as well?
Yeah, I think, so first and most importantly, we think people still want to live in downtown areas and will continue to want to do so after the pandemic is behind us. There's still a desire for walkable environments where you can live, work, and play. We don't believe that's going away. I think Boone may have mentioned it, but we've seen articles that say that cities like Raleigh there may be an increase in migration and expedited migration in cities like Raleigh because of the pandemic. Cities that offer an educated workforce, great amenities, great jobs, relative affordability, a great climate, while not being as densely populated as places like New York. So we're excited about being in places like downtown. And then within downtown, as I mentioned, we're looking as far north as P Street, as far south as downtown South, and everywhere in between. From a micro perspective, we are studying design and operational changes due to the pandemic, and I think some of them will be permanent. So for example, we're considering increasing the number of balconies at some of our new projects, adding more work from home spaces inside of units and also in our common areas, adding more outdoor amenity spaces, tweaking or changing our HVAC systems, and even things like relooking at how we accommodate food delivery and package delivery. So we're still studying the issue, but I do think there'll be changes to the design and operation of our projects and other developers in Raleigh and beyond.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to talk to our final panelists now, Jess Porta. Jess, how has Raleigh Founded shifted during COVID-19 in terms of its co-working space? but also its collaborative community.
Sure. Thanks, Sharon, for having me. I appreciate being here. Well, first of all, Raleigh Founded and co-working in general sort of lives at the intersection of hospitality and commercial real estate, and to some extent events. And to be frank, I really struggled to think of worse industries to be in during COVID. And so, yeah, of course, when this all happened, it was, painful at first, not just because there was, a financial loss, but because we really built a community that supports and cares about entrepreneurs and small businesses and really just human beings living in the Triangle. And it was really tough to see them struggle and fail in some cases, and it still is. We have, gone in to offer relief to some of those companies and come up with creative ways to help them stay a part of our space and a part of our community. And then we took a deep breath, and like any entrepreneurial organization, I think should, and a lot of what you've seen today, we found out that we had to pivot. And so we did a couple of things. We really looked at this opportunity or at this negative situation as an opportunity where we could be creative and show some resiliency. And so we moved really quickly to online platforms, and we made a lot of our virtual resources online. We're still building out that portion of what we're doing. And, we also created programs to support people in the community. So for instance, if you are, if you're a small business owner that's been affected by COVID, or you are an individual organization working on racial equity work in the community, we have 3-month free membership programs where you can come and join and have a space to work, apply for the membership program, and have a space to work for the rest of the year. And so, really it's forced us to be more creative. We're reopened now. We've got a lot of safety measures in place, social distancing in place, and really just trying to work with the community to keep supporting them.
Yeah, and co-working spaces were so popular and were rapidly growing prior to COVID-19. Do you see co-working spaces rebounding and continue to grow as a model for work in the future? And I think you've already talked about it a little bit, but what other changes do you foresee in the co-working communities?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And I've been talking a lot about this lately, as you can imagine. So we actually saw a lot of these shifts long before COVID. So there was already a trend of companies that have, say, like a big company in New York or in San Francisco, where they realized, hey, I can work remotely in Raleigh, North Carolina for, the same amount of pay and have a much better quality of life. And so we were already seeing individuals and smaller teams as a part of larger companies relocating here and having kind of like a base camp here. I think COVID has just sort of accelerated that. It was Square, I believe, that is offering up to $20,000 lump sum to individuals, to employees of theirs who want to relocate to smaller cities to take advantage of this movement of people being able to have even less pay from their company, but higher quality of living. And so thinking about how Raleigh can capitalize on that. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these larger teams realizing that they don't need to fill, it's not traditional work anymore. People don't have to clock in and clock out at the same time to be just as productive. So we're going to see people have sort of base camps where people can touch base, have a meeting space, get together as a team, but not necessarily, occupy all the space. So I actually do think co-working is going to grow from this. And so is remote work in general. And I think, the future of is to be seen. I mean, I think I would encourage everybody to look at this, especially in this industry, but even beyond, because we're sort of as a community ourselves, we're sort of a microcosm of the larger Raleigh community. And what I see is a lot of hope and a lot of resilience, and I think there's a call to go back to normal, but I also really want to hit home on the point that maybe we don't need to go back to normal. Maybe normal wasn't great for everybody involved pre-COVID and pre-George Floyd, and there's a new normal ahead of us that I think Raleigh is capable of finding, that's more equitable, more accessible, that's more thoughtful about the people in our community, and we want to play a leadership role in pushing that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's some common themes here that everybody's talking about is, you know, instead of going back to normal, going forward to normal, and that there is a lot of hope. And you know, this is a bump in the road, but it might shift our direction a little bit to possibly even a better place. So thank you so much, Jess, and thanks to all of our panelists for being here today. And now I just want to toss it back to Bill King for his closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much to our great panel. You guys were wonderful. Thank you for sharing your candid thoughts with us on how things are going. I think you can hear there's a tremendous amount of optimism for this downtown. There's a lot of hope, but there's also a lot of opportunity to move forward in a different direction. We have a lot of great leaders in this community prepared to do so. I want to mention that the data you saw today is all live on our website in our State of Downtown report and our new website that we've built for that. So if you go to our website, you'll find it there. And always feel free to reach out to myself and my team if you have any questions, if there's anything we can ever do to help you. We're here to help downtown Raleigh. We're here to make this place stronger than ever. I want to thank you for your time and your attention today. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.